I would say going into dislikes. Again, not trying to beat, an old drum here, but still, CGI, script, delivery, still very poor for the most part. There's kind of just some things that just don't make sense. Like, you build up Count Dooku, you show him in the second or third act in the second film. He seems like he's the big bad. He's the guy that's working for Darth Sidious, right? And then, in the first, 8 to 10 minutes, they cut off his hands, they cut off his head, Anakin does, and he kills him. And it's like, what? Like, I'm looking forward to this fight, blah, blah, blah. He crushes Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then he's dead.
I know.
Like, okay. And then, alright, now we're focusing most of the movie on this random droid general. I didn't even know they had generals.
Yeah, well, they didn't bring it up
most of the movie.
In either of the first two movies. And that's what I hate when movies do that. It's like, can't you at least bring him up in the second movie?
Just a mention.
Yeah, just a mention, oh, he's the leader of the droid army, and then think, oh, maybe in the next movie, and then the next movie comes, it's like, oh yeah, they brought this guy up in the first one or the second one, and they didn't do that.
And it was a cool moment, him with the 4 lightsabers. Oh, Count Dooku taught me ways of the Force, but it's like, wait, what? Droids can learn Force?
I know. It doesn't make sense.
But where the hell did that come in? I don't care about this character. All right, he was all right, and he's faking emphysema, and then all of a sudden he's fine.
I know, he kept coughing, and it didn't make sense.
But it's I wanted Count Dooku in that role. I'd rather this droid general immediately killed, and we're looking after Count Dooku. That would have had more emotional weight.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
We keep talking about all this great lead up in this movie. That was a poor execution.
Yeah.
Poor job there.
Yeah.
And just other things that didn't make sense. Like Anakin, right, he kills Count Dooku, right? Who kicks his ass. He kicks Obi-Wan's and fights to a standstill with Yoda. And then Anakin's like, I've doubled my power since we last fought. But then he loses to Obi-Wan at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what? How does all this power make sense? Obi-Wan keeps getting his ass kicked through the series of the prequels here, but then he annihilates Anakin, who even Darth Sidious says has more power than I do.
Yeah.
That was kind of
that could
a lot of holes in that.
Could also just be because Obi's taught him everything he knows. So
I guess maybe it's familiarity.
His style, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, I know what you mean.
What would you say your dislikes are?
My major dislike besides obviously the mainstays of the delivery in some cases, some poor dialogue, besides CGI, besides all that stuff. There could have been a really great emotional scene where you have all the droids or all the clones, turning, and they're all killing the Jedis, and it's about a 5-minute scene. If you had any backstory on those Jedis, if you knew who they were, half of them I didn't even know their names.
No,
and a few of them went down.
I didn't even see them before.
I know, and exactly. And a few of them went down, and you're like, oh, I didn't know she was a Jedi, and I'm like, yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
If they just introduce those characters a little bit, where maybe they had their own scene with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they all,
a quick couple lines.
Yeah, exactly. That weight, and it's you would have actually felt bad for them, they're just getting slaughtered. And I'm not saying you don't feel bad for them, but you don't even know who they are, so it's kind of tough to feel oh man, I'm.
And we understand it's a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
There's always so much you can fit in, but just say a name, just something.
Exactly.
Just give us something.
Yeah, exactly. All those scenes with Jar Jar Binks in the first one should have been replaced with those scenes of maybe knowing the Jedis a little bit.
Exactly. You could have built up this whole Jedi Council.
That scene could have been so powerful, and I'm not saying it was a bad scene where all the clones turn and they're killing the Jedis, but
cool scene.
It could have been a lot better in terms of emotional weight.
Exactly, and that even makes me think about Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah.
Right? So he dies, right? Cool scene, blah blah blah. They keep talking about he's, Anakin. He has the wisdom he's going to get of Yoda and the power of Mace Windu. So he's the most badass, Jedi member, right? On the council, in the Jedi at that turn, and then he fights a good fight. He basically beats the Emperor if it wasn't for Anakin, but you don't really know a lot about him. If you really think about it, in these 3 movies, he didn't have that many lines or that many scenes.
No.
He was an underutilized character.
I don't think he even got mentioned after he got killed.
Right?
Which was kind of surprising. Yeah, right. That was poor too. That they didn't even mention him, and he was supposed to be one of these big Jedi.
Yeah, and you get an actor like Samuel L. Jackson, who even in 2005 is still a pretty known commodity through Pulp Fiction and all this other stuff. He's been around for 20 years, and you waste him in this Star Wars movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, but you could make that case that they wasted him.
Yeah, you could have did more there. And just one last point I wanted to make here that I brought to you is, so you could have just had the Emperor was just, that's the way his race looked, or that's just how old he got over the years or something. I kind of thought it was poor the way they gave him him deforming. His own lightning reflected off Mace Windu's lightsaber, and was just progressively aging him. I don't know. I thought that could have been done better.
Yeah, no, I disagree with you on that. I didn't mind that. I thought that was kind of cool. And I'm not sure if, because when he was talking to like the trade council and he had the cloak on, it kind of looked like his face was wrinkly and old.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that was like
it brought it out of him?
Yeah, if he was able to manipulate. I mean, that might be completely wrong.
That's fair. Which is another point that they never... That's a good point, though.
Right.
Because they also never tell us, did people like Count Dooku know that the Emperor and Darth Sidious... I mean, the Senator and Senator Palpatine and Darth Sidious were the same person? Because it seemed like he was playing both sides and neither side knew.
They kind of leave that up to debate, I feel. Yeah, I know. That, which is kind of silly. Yeah, it is silly.
I don't know. Just that and the whole thing of just Anakin discovering him, like, you're the Sith Lord. I can help you, though, with Padme. And you don't even explain this Force vision. That, like, okay, is he seeing the future? Can all Jedis do that? Like, how does that work? I don't know.
I know.
Now, for someone new, I need that, when the 7th movie came around and that happened to Rey, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you need to explain those things to them.
Right.
Maybe in the originals it gets explained, and I'll see that for myself, but, gotta give a little background.
Right, I agree with that.
Going into, I guess, how it held up over the years, again, still didn't hold up that well. I have hope for the original trilogy. I understand it was in, like, 1977, I think the first one was.
77.
But maybe it'll hold up for the time. For this, in 2005, with a lot of movies coming out at the time, best CGI of the 3 movies, best practical effects, but there is still some scenes. I mean, when you can see the green screen.
It's that one room. It's the same room.
That one goddamn room. When Anakin, right before he discovers Emperor Palpatine, go back and watch it, when they're both walking out in the hallway, it is so blatant of a green screen.
I know.
It is sad. I mean, a high schooler can do that with a green screen. That is just for a major motion picture with Lucasfilm, and it wasn't at the time Disney, but like I don't know if Fox was at the time. I know they did the originals.
Warner Bros. One of those.
Right. You have this major studio behind you, probably has a big budget, probably in the $100 millions. And like, really?
Yeah.
Like, really? You can't mix that in? You couldn't build a practical... You keep going to that room. Build the fucking set!
I know.
What is the big deal?
I know. There's so much money. It's not like money was an issue for them.
Yeah, I mean, they would have just threw money at the Star Wars movie. Like, come on, George Lucas. You and your staff, what are you doing?
I know.
Like, so I would say that wouldn't hold up in that regard, and just, obviously... Just the script was poor from the start. It has nothing to do with the time period that it was written in. Like, you could maybe look at 1940 films and go, all right, this script was great for the time, but the dialogue and the way words are used doesn't fit in. No, this is 2005, and it's just a poor script.
Yeah.
It's a poor script, poor delivery, and it's definitely a movie that I could go back and watch maybe some of those great saber battles, but still the prequels, not something I'm going to be checking out on the regular. How would you say it held up?
I'm gonna agree with you in the sense that it doesn't hold up well in the I just feel like that's becoming a repetitive point, though.
Yeah, but it's so true.
Well, it is true. No, it is true.
It's repetitive, and I agree with you. But we're getting closer to 2016. We're now in 2005 with this movie. It's supposed to be getting better, and it's really not.
Well, I'll tell you where it does get better, and where I think it does hold up well are those lightsaber battles.
Yeah,
I think the battles and the fights. Got to give it some credit. That fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think that's probably...
Background, though, could have been done better.
It could have been done better, absolutely. But still, I think that fight really, and the one between Yoda and Sidious, I think those fights hold up well. If I'm nitpicking, those are probably the only 2 fights that I could say, those are the 2 ones that, they hold up well. And maybe, the acting and the delivery, and the writing and all that good stuff, maybe it doesn't. But
we could say throughout these movies, the space stuff holds up.
Yeah.
It holds up. It looks good because I think there's less in the background because you're on that black sky, and those fighter pilots and all those shooting
very
scenes,
realistic.
They still hold up. The droids that were on Anakin's and Obi-Wan's, all that still looks pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So I'll give them that. So if I could say anything with the prequels, stick to space.
Yeah.
Rating wise, definitely I'm gonna give it the best. I'm going to solid 5 out of 10. I think this is a decent enough movie. If I had to go back to the prequels, this is the only one I'm watching.
Yeah. I was gonna give it a 6.5, but And then I was going to give it a 7.
Keep going up.
Yeah, but I'm actually going to give it a 6,
You're
which is kind of just a plot twist.
It's fair.
But for me, it's anywhere between the 6 and 7 range. I think 6 is probably a bare low. But besides those 2 battles, there was just a lot of things that could have been done better. And a 6 is still an average rating. I thought it was better than the first 2, but still not. To me, a 7 is good. 6 is still average, and I think
5 is right where I can watch it and enjoy it, but it's not a good movie.
It's just got things that it should have fixed, and
just you need to improve the delivery. Improve the delivery in this movie could be a 7.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just improve the delivery.
Absolutely, but it is the best out of the prequels, and you gotta give it props for that.
Yeah.
So,
and we could also blame George Lucas. Maybe I've heard and read reports that the way he directed them and just said, move your face this way. Like, you could check out Collider's Jedi Council. Like, move your face this way and just look this certain way. Like, you can't make people into robots, into stick figures. If that's really what he did, we can't fully blame Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman and Ewan McGregor.
You need some direction.
It's direction.
Yeah, you do.
So, that's kind of our thoughts here on Episode 3 of Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. Have you watched it recently? Or, is it more 2005? Kind of did you see it in the theaters? Let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you would be so kind. Share the video, like it. And until next time, where we start with the original trilogy, A New Hope. Thanks for watching, guys.